Good morning. My name is Natalia Kuraeva. I'm Senior Instructional Designer at University Online Education Services at Rutgers University. On behalf of the 2025 Rutgers University Online Learning Conference, I welcome Christine Harrington, professor at Morgan State University and a part-time lecturer at Rutgers University. I also welcome Miata Johnson and Damaris Sargent. They are both doctorate candidates from the Morgan State University. We are pleased to have them share their thoughts on the engagement in online environment. Very important topic. During this presentation, please engage using live chat session. You may also pose any question you have using Q&A, and the presenters will answer them as we go along and also at the end of the session as the time permit. Please use chat for links to resources related to this presentation. Thank you and welcome everybody, and we will begin. Christine, it's all yours.
Thank you, Natalia. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for joining us today. And as you just heard, I'm delighted to be here with two of my colleagues, Mia Johnson and Damaris Sargent. I will just do a very quick intro, and then I'll ask each of them to do a quick intro as well. So I've been working at Rutgers for about 10 years in the Graduate School of Education as a part-time lecturer. I absolutely love it because I get to teach courses on learning and teaching, which is my area of passion and expertise. My full-time gig is at Morgan State University as a professor in the Department of Advanced Studies, Leadership, and Policy. Damaris, I'm going to turn it over to you, and then you can turn it over to Mia. Can you just do a quick intro, please?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I am Damaris Sargent. I am a doctoral student at Morgan State University in the Community College Leadership Program. I am a doctoral candidate. Throughout my academic journey, I've been. Are we ready to talk about that yet, or just
you can wait
brief?
For your story for the slide. Just a quick hello right now.
Okay. Yes. I'm just going to keep it brief. And I'm excited about being here, and I'm willing to learn as much as I can about this topic as well. This is something that's really near and dear to my heart because it's part of my research topic.
Thank you, Damaris. And was Mia able to join? Are you here, Mia? She was having some technical issues. Did she not get in yet?
Don't see Mia joining us, so perhaps Christine, you can introduce her and she will join us.
I will. And then Damaris, just text me when she shows up so that way I can give her a shout out. So Mia Johnson is also a doctoral candidate at Morgan State University. And I know she was here a minute ago and having some tech issues, so she'll be back with us hopefully shortly. So again, thank you so much for joining us. I wanted to share with you kind of the reason for bringing this topic forward. Prior to moving into the doctoral world, I worked at a community college, Middlesex College, and in that role, I did a lot of professional development for their faculty. And my last shebang before leaving Middlesex was a student panel. Many of you have probably heard students before talk about what inspires them. If you're like most faculty, you just can't get enough of listening to their stories. They're just so amazing at what they share, and I learned so much from listening to them. So I wanted to put their words into a written format as well as just a panel. So I approached a publisher and was delighted that they were excited to share student stories so that we're centering student voice more. So often we're talking about students about how to engage them instead of talking with students about how to engage them. So that's what I wanted to do in this book. So the Keeping Us Engaged book, the one that you see in the middle, came out in 2019, actually, I think. And I worked with 50 college students, as you can see from the cover. So 50 stories of what their faculty members did to engage them. There was so much excitement around this. He really asked me to do a second edition because obviously between that time and now the pandemic was out, and they wanted to hear about what engaged students during and after the pandemic. And this time around, I split it up into two different versions. I did a second edition of Keeping Us Engaged, which is actually out in 3 days, March 20th. It'll be publication. You can do a pre-order now, with 50 students who shared stories about their in-person classes. And I also did a completely separate book with 50 students. Well, actually, there's more in all of these books, but at least 50 students who talk about what their online professors did to engage them. Now, today we only have about 50 minutes with you. So 50 seems to be the number of the day. So you won't be able to hear from all these 150 stories, but I'm trying to highlight some of the, snippets of their stories of what faculty did to engage them. So hopefully that provides you with a little bit of a backdrop for today's presentation. I'm sure you're all familiar with the community of inquiry model. I think it's so important in the online space, also the in-person space actually, but especially so in the online space, to ensure that students feel the social presence, the cognitive presence, and the teaching presence. All of those really matter to engage students. So the stories that you'll see shared today, which you'll see some excerpts of stories that are in quote format. We have a couple of videos also, so you can hear in direct student voice. And of course, I have a couple of live students with me as well, Damaris and Mia, who will also be able to share some of their stories and inspiration with you as well. So in terms of the topics of the day, there are 5 different chapters in each of the books, and we just simply don't have time to do all of them. So we got together and decided that early actions, some relationship-focused stories, and a few on teaching strategies would be the best to bring, kind of some inspiration to you as faculty in terms of what you can do to engage your students. So those are the topics of the day. Let's get started with topic number 1. We're going to talk about early actions. The students had so much to say about things that faculty did in the very beginning of the semester that engaged them. One was emphasizing their well-being. So that was actually a new topic that was not brought up in the first edition, but the second edition, lots of faculty talked about how important it was for faculty to be emphasizing them as people first and students second. Second, students really talked about many ways that they could get to know you as well as they wanted you to get to know them. So obviously that's going to be with some of the icebreakers and some other ways with intentional out of class kinds of activities and things of that nature. And then especially in the online class, and these are where the stories are predominantly coming from for today's presentation, it was pretty critical to them that faculty shared expectations and resources so that they knew what to expect and how to get the support that they needed during their journey as an online student. So we are going to begin with emphasizing well-being. And I'm sure what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap these stories up. So you'll see many quotes and stories, but I like to infuse some research and statistics and some theoretical points along the way. So you'll see all of the content kind of wrapped up in that way. So I want to begin by acknowledging the mental health challenges that are facing our students today. These are just a few of the statistics that you see in front of you. I'll highlight a couple. If you look in the upper right-hand corner, you can see 80% of faculty are saying, yes, I'm having conversations with students about mental health issues. Up to 75% of students have reported having moderate or severe mental health issues and challenges such as depression and anxiety. Almost half are saying I have food and housing insecurity issues. And the majority of them are working. So they're challenged with balancing school with work. And of course, they probably have some family members and loved ones they need to spend a few minutes with here or there. In fact, 22% of undergraduates are saying, I'm a parent. So we're talking about students who have very complex lives and lots going on. So I think attending to their emotional well-being is super important. So is Mia here yet? Are you here, Mia? Because if not, I'll go ahead and do your slide. If she's
here. I see her.
She is? All right, Mia, I'm going to let you go ahead and do our first student story, if you don't mind. Is Mia a panelist, Natalie, or is she only in the audience?
You know what? She's in the chat, but I don't see her on the stage.
Okay, so Mia, you probably have to hit a button to say that you're a panelist. Otherwise, you're just going to be listening like the rest. So I'm going to go ahead and do this for now. And if someone could let me know once she's promoted to panelist, that would be great. I'll pull her in for the next part. So here is one of the first stories. This is by a student named Patricia, actually at Morgan State, which is where all of us are from. It's a different class. And here is what Patricia had to say. And by the way, I don't usually read my slides when I'm presenting, but when I have student stories, I don't want to paraphrase them. So I want to make sure you're hearing their words exactly. So please indulge me and let me have a little bit of grace in terms of reading just the student story slides to you. All right, here is what Patricia said. One of the strategies that Dr. Grimes uses in her teaching is emotional well-being checks. She understands that students have different needs and challenges, and she tries to create a supportive and flexible learning environment for all of us. She checks our mood at the beginning of each class and addresses any concerns we share. For example, she may ask us how we're feeling, what we're looking forward to, what we're struggling with. She often shares tips and resources to help us deal with our challenges. She's empathetic and accommodating to students who have genuine reasons for not meeting the deadlines or attending class. She doesn't penalize them for late submissions or absences, but rather encourages them to communicate with her and seek help when needed. Really powerful statement here. And when you hear the rest of Patricia's story, she was really talking about all these synchronous classes and how her professor was emphasizing, like, giving them a minute to kind of just breathe and reset and to share how they were feeling. And she did it in a lot of different creative ways. Sometimes she do. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. Mia joined us, so you.
Oh, terrific. Excellent. Glad you're here, Mia. I'm going to put you in for the next one. I'm just going to carry this one out, if that's okay. So in this story, Dr. Grimes, she did things like weather checks, like what kind of weather represents your mood today. And those kinds of checks are really powerful and helpful. So I'm so grateful to Patricia for sharing this and highlighting what Dr. Grimes did to engage her. And she just did probably about 2 or 3 minutes at the beginning of every class. And that was really helpful. I know that's more for a synchronous versus an asynchronous class, although there's nothing stopping asynchronous professors from checking in on emotional well-being as well. All right, the next topic I want to introduce is helping students get to know you as the professor. Several students really said how powerful and helpful that was. So this one is sharing an inspiring story. And Damaris, I'm going to let you go ahead and read this one if you don't mind.
Yes, as she stated, the next story is entitled Sharing an Inspiring Story by Marie Zafir, University of North Dakota. I found it engaging to learn about my professor's journey, from humble beginnings to being a renowned physician and public health advocate. His willingness to share his story, knowledge, and expertise with inspiring scholars like myself embodies the spirit of reciprocity and community that defines our cultural values. As I navigate my own path in academia and public health, Professor Worm's journey serves as a guiding light, reminding me of the importance of embracing my cultural heritage and leveraging it to create a positive change. His legacy inspires me to strive for greatness and to honor his teachings through my own contributions to indigenous health and well-being. And I give kudos to him for allowing this to happen and to the student to embrace their culture.
Thank you, Damaris. I appreciate that. So another great story about just learning about faculty. And sometimes people don't know much about you, and you can reduce some of the emotional and distance between you and your students. So let me share, this is a few research studies, how important sharing some simple things like even a photo or an introductory video. And I know many of you are doing a lot of these practices. So I do hope that you walk away from today's session feeling really validated that the strategies you're using are resonating with students. And perhaps if you're not doing some of these strategies, I encourage you to stretch yourself and do some of those. So these are some research studies that point to the impact that these photos and introductory videos can have. These researchers found that when students had online classes where they had a photo and or introductory video from their professor, they perceived the learning environment to be more inclusive. They also had higher engagement, and they perceived their professors to be warmer and more caring. So their perception by just including a video, now obviously if you're smiling during the video or in your photo, that's going to help a bit too. But overall, their overall satisfaction with the entire class was more positive. And the only difference between some of these studies was whether or not there was a photo and introductory video. So sometimes it's a really small actions that can make a very big impact and just a big difference for your students. So I hope that you use some of those strategies and be really intentional around them. Now, of course, it's not just about them getting to know you. They want you to get to know them. Students don't want to be a number. They want to be a human in your class, and they want you to get to know them. So I'm going to share for a moment some research around icebreakers. I know this is always a little more challenging in an online class, but there are definitely ways to do it. We know that when students do have an opportunity to engage in these icebreakers, where the primary goal is for people to get to know one another and how, just kind of develop a much more learning focused classroom by developing connection. So you're not on this very independent, isolated journey, but you recognize that you're a part of a class. And that your connections with your peers as well as your professor are going to help and support you through this journey. So Sassen's study here just talked about when an icebreaker was being used, students had higher levels of engagement and participation in the overall class, which I know is what we're all seeking, especially in online classes. We want to ensure they're actively engaged and participating. I'm going to share next with you. This is a student who actually has since graduated. We have to refer to her now as Dr. Horge from a previous university that I worked at. And Dr. Horge is going to talk to you about the Pechakucha. If you're not familiar with what that is, it's a special presentation style that Shadiqua is going to tell you all about. So I'm going to go ahead and play the video so you can hear in her own words why this was so impactful to her as an online student and what it is. She's even going to do a quick demonstration of her own Pechakucha. So hopefully this resonates with you. Here you go. Enjoy.
Together, we learned a lot of different things during that institute. But on that first day, I was nervous, I was anxious, I was excited, I was unsure, I was motivated, I was all these different things. I don't know if you guys maybe remember your first day of, let's say, high school or college or all those different emotions. So we were introduced to Pechakucha. So what is that? It's a structured presentation. And what it is it's 20 by 20 rule. So you have 20 slides and you have 20 seconds per slide. So Pechakucha means chit chat or chat. And it started in Tokyo in 2003. And it was adopted as this alternate presentation style. And it was great for sharing a message and conversing. So you have images on each slide. It's sort of like an image, and the presenter speaks to the image. So it started out as sort of like a icebreaker. But it was much more than that. We were engaged. We got to know each other. We celebrated our differences and we honored our culture. And we realized that we are on this journey together. And that really bonded us to each other, to our faculty members. And okay, there we are. This is my mom and I come from a single parent household. My mom is my best friend. And the other picture shows one Sunday morning getting ready for church. Our church is a big part of who we are. And we came from humble beginnings. We didn't have a lot. I didn't know it at the time. See, the slides go quickly. I was valedictorian of my high school, which was one of my goals. Wanted to buy a home. This is my home. Then I wanted to start a family. These are my two boys. And then I began my career journey. So you begin the ladder, the race, the hurdles, the ups, and things of that nature. And this is some of my students who graduated, who I'm very proud of. They're in the middle there. And I work at Essex County College. And everything seemed to be going great. Then came my diagnosis of cancer. But I did not let that deter me. I persevered and I'm in remission. And I continued on my career path. I was in academic affairs for 10 plus years. And then I transitioned recently to student affairs. So this is the bridge, the gap, bridging the two, the academic affairs and the student affairs side together. and it led me to New Jersey City University. And these are my family members, my peers, my support system. We have a group me app where we encourage each other, we talk to each other along this journey. And it started really during that summer institute. And during that summer institute, one of the great things that really resonated with me is this picture about equality versus equity and what the difference is. And that led me to my social justice advocacy work here at my college and also in my community. So I love quotes. I love to have post-its, and I like having positive affirmations and things of that nature. So one quote that I love is, "We may have different religions, different languages, different colored skin, but we all belong to one human race." So thank you. That's just a little bit about me. But see how during those, I just had 10 slides, you gained so much information about me. You're engaged. You may want to know more, but so that's what it was. We were engaged, and I really appreciate that Summer Institute where we got to really know each other on a deeper level. Thank you, and I hope.
Oh, that just cut off. But great job by Shadika. I think the PechaKuchas I love using, and I think they can work really well in the asynchronous online classes as well. I have used them to introduce myself to students. So I model how to do it and then ask them to do it as well. I feel like when you provide some structure around the icebreakers, you often get a little bit more meaningful information about them and get to know your students in a more deeper way than just asking them to share something interesting about themselves in class, which can also be a good icebreaker as well. But sometimes switching it up can be a lot of fun. So I hope that you see the value in that. So I wanted to share this interesting research study. It was done in a high school setting. I totally get that we're in a college setting, but it was so impactful to me that I really wanted to bring it to your attention to highlight kind of some of the key findings that I think are transferable to the college sector as well. So here's what happened. Gelbeck and colleagues, they conducted a study on icebreakers, and they did do it in a high school setting. And at the beginning of the school year, they asked all of the high school students to take a getting to know you survey. They also asked all of the high school teachers to take a getting to know you survey. And then what they did is they randomly assigned students to one of two groups. In one group, they were told, here are 5 things you have in common with your teachers based on your survey results. In the other group, they were told, here are 5 things you have in common with students at another school. So that was the only difference between these two groups of students. I want you to just, if you're multitasking for a minute, I need you to pay attention to the screen because I want you to take a look at what these findings were. They are so amazing to me. They're pretty significant because remember, the only difference was what they were told about the findings of their getting to know you survey. Either was 5 things you had in common with a teacher or 5 things you had in common with another student at a different school. So, all right, I know you're ready and primed. Here we go. Here's the findings. If they were told, here are 5 things you have in common with your teacher, those students reported having better relationships with their teachers. Okay, you're like, all right, Christine, that's exciting, but not over the top exciting. But they had higher course grades. I mean, there are very few things that we could do with that small amount of an intervention that can impact course grades in that way. And even more amazing was that they closed equity gaps. So what I love about this study is it tells us that it's not just about doing an icebreaker, but the nature of the icebreakers we do really do matter. So providing students with information that reduces the distance between you as the teacher and them as the student can really make a difference. Sharing maybe parts of your identity that they would not know without talking to you, like maybe you're a first-gen student, can really make a big difference to students. They can feel more connected because sometimes students feel like you're just so far away as this really powerful authority figure. And you are an authority figure in the classroom. I'm not trying to minimize that, but I want them to feel like they can go and approach you and connect with you. So I feel like when you do icebreakers, if you can find a way to focus on similarities, you're going to have a very strong impact. It's going to be really impactful. All right, next up, we're going to talk about how do we share expectations and resources. So many stories talked about this. Some of these very simple early actions that we take to make sure they know how the online class is going to work and what's expected of them make a very big difference. So I'm going to start with the first story. This one's by Mossad, and this one emphasizes the syllabus. So here is what he had to say. In the digital corridors of online learning, I encountered a meticulously crafted syllabus that helped transform the virtual classroom into a dynamic learning environment in my graduate course. My professor believed that a well-structured syllabus served as a course's backbone, and I couldn't agree more. In the syllabus, he included a course outline sharing the steps we would take each week to accomplish the course goals. He clearly shared the specific objectives for each week, how the tasks and the assignments were designed to meet these goals. This clarity and structure and purpose made the course exceptionally engaging. I found the goal-oriented structure to be very motivational. The syllabus was not just a document, it was a roadmap to success. So those early documents, all the energy you put into them, they do make a difference. Now, I was interested in knowing, do we still need a syllabus in our online world that we have, Canvas and Blackboard and all these tools where kind of the syllabus can be created as modules or with, embedded within our learning management system? So I conducted a study to see, is the syllabus passé? Like, do we need it anymore? And actually, both students and faculty still very indicated that we do want to have the syllabus still. So the average was 6.02 for students and a 6.48 for faculty on a scale of 1 to 7, with 7 being strongly agree to this statement. I prefer to have a separate document, even if all that content is embedded into an LMS. So the reason why students seem to like the additional syllabus is that everyone sets their LMS up a little differently. And sometimes they have a hard time finding all of those nuggets that you have, the good resources and expectations. But they're trained to know that a syllabus has got like my most key ingredients in it. So if I go to that document, I'm going to be in a good space. So whether this is going to be the same in 5 or 10 years, I don't know. But currently students are still looking for that. And so are faculty. Mia, would you just do a very quick hello and then go ahead and jump into this story for us, please? Is Mia with us?
She's on mute. We can't hear her.
Oh, Mia, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Mia, click on the microphone on the bottom. Okay, try now. Say something.
All right. Just because we're tight on time, I think I'm going to keep going, and then hopefully we can get Mia. Mia, if you can maybe work with Natalia through chat or something to get situated so when it's time for your story, we can hear you. Those are the most important words we want to hear is your story. But I'm going to go ahead and read Raymond's story, who's at Rutgers, by the way. So it's nice to have a couple Rutgers students highlighted here. Here's what Raymond said. After an absence of almost 30 years, I entered grad school as a returning student. My prior learning experiences were traditional, taking place in a physical classroom. I was therefore quite nervous about how my learning experience in an online course would play out. I asked myself, how would I express my thoughts? How could I remain engaged? Would I be able to use technology correctly? I had so many fears. Within the first 5 minutes of class, I knew I was fortunate. My professor explained how the course would work, laid out the steps we would need to take in this online classroom. My recommendation to professors teaching online is simple. First, never assume that your students have experience in an online classroom setting. Then, set clear and understandable guidelines on how the class will operate. Speak about the technology being used and how they can expect to learn. I also encourage professors to read the classroom as they would in a traditional classroom and adjust their teaching based on how the students do respond. The goal is to engage students as much as possible. I actually found that this learning experience was better than I would have gotten if the class was an in-person one. So I think this is a great reminder that sometimes we're doing something for a while and we forget that it may be the very first time that student is doing it in an online setting. So just not making those assumptions, as Raymond had recommended, can make a world of difference for students. All right. All right, sharing helpful resources. Damaris, would you mind reading this one, please?
Yes. Sharing helpful resources by Adalua Folami. My professor sent those who registered for their online research course a pre-class announcement a few weeks before the start of the course, excuse me. In the announcement, my professor shared tips on how to be successful in the course and what we would need text, computer, and internet requirements to have a successful start. My professor also provided links to mental health resources that could be helpful if we experience stress. As an international student, these initial messages and resources were especially helpful. This initial announcement conveyed that my professor was concerned about our well being and success as they wanted to help us to prepare for success in the class. I really like this professor because he recognizes that mental health and well being is very important for all of us.
Thank you, Damaris. A great reminder that sometimes these actions are not just about helping, but conveying that care that we have as well. So excellent. All right, I'm going to ask you to just take a minute in the chat. How do you or could you engage online students through early actions? So I'm just going to ask you to take a minute to share. I'll give you about 30 seconds to 1 minute so that you can learn from your colleagues in this session as well, not just from students. I'll give you a chance to share and then we'll pause. Natalia, wait, may I ask you, would you mind maybe just highlighting one or two of the examples from the chat or share something from your own experience?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of good examples here. So I'm going to just pick some. I have somebody said two truths and a lie, and other guess the lie. I've done that. It's fun. Soft syllabus, very similar to an introductory video. One instructor recommended a LinkedIn learning course to prep us, very helpful. Mia is asking, what brings you joy? I like that. Students bingo, fill out a bingo card by finding people who meet criteria. Engaging introduction post. One course I was in, we had to create an infographic bio about ourselves, and that was fun and informative. In the icebreaker, students share an image of their smartphone home screen and explain its significance. Semester start email, a pre-course surveys, silent portrait activity where I pair up students as they have to draw each other. Wow. And yes, two truths and a lie. People still like that. Introduce myself and at the class a week or so prior to the start. And the last one we have start each class with icebreakers that elect state of being and some sharing of food or activities in the past week. What are
Oh,
your things? We have everything here.
yes, thank you, Natalia. Appreciate that. The way my screen is, if I go and look at the chat, then you don't get to see the full screen. So thank you for doing that for me. I so appreciate that. And what amazing strategies. And I'm sure there's even more that we didn't get to talk about right now. But thank you for doing all those things to engage students. I hope you grab some examples from your colleagues and you can maybe think about incorporating those into your classes. All right, next up, we're going to talk about developing professor-student relationships. Many of the students in the online classes focus on being accessible and providing encouraging words. So we know that relationships matter. In fact, there was this really powerful quote, personal connections are the unanticipated success factor. It's a critical variable that improves the odds of persistence. And I think that sometimes people feel like it's harder to do, but I will tell you, I have so many of my online students that I still stay very connected to in so many different ways. So it is totally possible to pull this off in an online environment. Definitely takes a little bit of effort, but it can really work both to my advantage as a faculty member. I love the relationships that I have with my students. They're so fun to watch where they go afterwards and, write letters of recommendations and other things of that nature. So let's talk about being accessible. I'm going to start off. Actually, Mia, it looks like you're on now. Do you want to read this one if you're able? Let's see if it works. Yes, we can. I'll let you go ahead and read this one. You don't mind being spontaneous this way, right?
No, not at all.
All right. Say a quick hello and go ahead and jump into this one from Gabriel.
All right, here we go. We have a story from Gabriel. I was sitting at my computer trying to get VoiceThread to work. No matter what I did, just like me a minute ago, refreshing the page and restarting my computer, nothing seems to fix the issue. As the assessment deadline approached, I started to feel very anxious. Frustrated, I decided to email my professor. I was not sure what kind of response I would get. To my surprise, the reply came back quickly and was a positive one. My professor wrote, "I will not allow stress in my class." That simple line immediately erased my worries. Knowing that my professor was focused on my well-being and the learning process rather than the deadline made me feel supported. With the reassurance and the little extra time, I was able to resolve the technical issue and submit the assignment without any penalty. I encourage professors to respond to emails as soon as possible within reason, within 24 to 48 hours, because a response can alleviate the stress that a student may be experiencing when working on an assignment. I also encourage professors to help students see that the goal is learning, not perfection. Excellent story, and it so ties in with exactly what I was going through just a moment ago.
Oh, perfect. All right. Thank you so much, Mia. And again, Gabriel's at Rutgers, so this is one of our own students that are sharing that. So I'm going to share in terms of timely responses, some of the data out there. This is, research done by Wilkie and Rosendale. And what they found was that 70% of students thought that faculty should respond within 24 hours. And that face-to-face students were more likely than online students to report that their professors met or exceeded their expectations. So I don't know if that's completely that online students have higher expectations, but I want to make sure that we're doing, we're doing good by students by ensuring that we respond quickly. And I know you need to take care of yourself and you need to set boundaries. So I'm not saying you should be on alert 24/7. That is not healthy. I do not recommend that. But you do want to make sure you find a way to be responsive. I usually tell students, if you don't hear from me within a day, you need to respond to me again because I am intending to respond. And that means something happened. Maybe I didn't get the email that you thought I got. So responding in a very quick way can be very helpful when a student is frustrated. The students really do appreciate it. All right, next up, we're going to talk about encouraging words. So different kinds of encouraging words that students use. I'll go ahead and do this one by Karen. And here's what Karen had to say. During my first few online class meetings, I tried to be present, but I felt cringing embarrassment because what I thought was going to be easy to handle was now getting too difficult for me to manage. Eventually, I emailed my professor to see if there was a way he could spare some time to help me understand the content before I decided to give up. I fully expected a cold response and be encouraged to withdraw. Like, how sad is that? Right? Like, that's super sad. But thankfully, that's not what happened. I informed my professor that I learned best in an in-person class with interaction, and I was missing that in this module-based learning environment. I also shared that visual and audio supports helped me learn. I was ready to hear something like, Karen, this isn't for you. You better withdraw and consider other courses. But instead, my professor gently said, Karen, I think you're being too hard on yourself. It's too soon to give up. And I believe you can do this. It was the first time I experienced a professor believing I was able to rise above my worries and difficulties. My professor started itemizing the ways in which I could improve, such as focusing on the specific modules that applied to the upcoming quizzes, utilizing the study guide to do a step-by-step process of learning, listening carefully for key points that he emphasized during class, and taking advantage of incentives offered. Moreover, he offered to tutor me on topics that I struggled to comprehend. Wonderful, right? This sounds like an amazing professor and made a world of difference to Karen. Mia, you can go ahead and read this one if you don't mind.
Christine, just quick note, we have about 10 minutes.
10 more minutes. Yep, we're good. Thank you. Mia, are you still with us?
Yep. This
Okay, go.
Okay. Testimonial is from a student at Texas Tech University. After missing a few assignment deadlines and 2 lectures, my professor emailed to check on me. I was at the point where the work and the lectures I missed meant I was going to fail. I debated how forthcoming I wanted to be. I did not want my professor to think I was a quitter or irresponsible if I failed. Would I be pity-seeking if I told my story? I decided on a bare bones explanation. I had just left a domestic violence situation. I was safe. I am trying to get reorganized and reoriented. I apologize for missing class and my assignments. I hope you will consider admitting me to future classes. Miraculously, the professor wrote back within an hour. She expressed concern and empathy for my situation, and she wanted to help. Together, we came up with a new set of deadlines for my work, and she offered me an online tutoring for the classes that I needed to miss, if I needed to miss. Truly, this was the most profound kindness I had experienced in an academic setting, which had spanned nearly 4 years already as a part-time student. I sincerely encourage professors to notice when a student is in need and need to reach out. Most importantly, do not give up on your students. What a wonderful, empathetic, caring professor that actually understood the needs of her student. That's his wonderful story.
Thank you so much, Mia. I appreciate it. Damaris, it's your turn. Just in a minute or so, because we are tight on time, as Natalia mentioned. Can you share your story really briefly?
I'm going to be really quick, brief as possible. Throughout my academic journey, I have been fortunate to receive support from dedicated professors who recognized my potential and provided the guidance I needed to succeed. Their willingness to offer academic accommodations such as extended exam time and alternative assignment formats not only helped me perform at my best, but also significantly boosted my confidence. This kind of personalized support was a powerful catalyst in shaping my academic experience. And reflecting on my journey, I'm deeply grateful for the professors and mentors who invested in my success. Their care and guidance reinforced the importance of creating an inclusive and supporting learning environment, one where students feel heard, empowered, confident in their abilities. I encourage all educators to listen to their students, provide accommodations when needed, and instill confidence in them so that they can take on challenges that will prepare them toward their goals.
Thank you, Damaris. Super inspiring. Appreciate that. All right, last up, we wanted to talk about some teaching strategies about prioritizing collaboration and using very different approaches. We'll start with collaboration, and here's what Edwin had to say. In this class, the instructor assigned a group project that required students to research an organization. Before starting, the instructor asked students to share what type of career they wanted to pursue. Each student was then placed into a team based on their career interests. Students had to complete modules to learn interpersonal skills that would be helpful for teamwork. And after each team member completed the modules, they were asked to elect a leader, assign roles for the remainder of the team members, and agree on rules for the project. What I love about this story is that Edwin's professor didn't assume that everyone knew how to be a great team member, but actually gave them the support so that they could be and function well in that way. One other story here by Krista. Krista talked about peer debriefing groups. So in my fieldwork, research, remote, synchronous online class, the professor put us into small groups. These were called peer debriefing groups. We stayed with them the whole semester. And what I really appreciated was that the professor built in time for us to meet with our group each week. So dedicating at least 20 minutes out of the hour-and-a-half class for this collaborative work. Finding time to connect with group members outside of class can be challenging, so this was really helpful. Having the professor available for questions while we engage in the activity was also helpful. The professor would drop into each group breakout room to check on us and offer guidance, answer questions we had. And our group, once we formed a bond, as a result, we provided lots of encouragement and support to each other. We truly cared about each other and our work. In addition to supporting each other, we also became accountability partners. So again, if we're going to ask students to do group work, we want to try to provide some mechanisms to do it. I know in an asynchronous class, you can't do this, but if you have a synchronous class, allotting some time for that to happen is a very big plus. I'm going to share this brief video by RJ, who's going to talk about a specific technique called the fishbowl. Let's listen to what he has to say, another Rutgers student.
Hello, I'm RJ Portella, and I am a doctoral candidate here to tell you about something one of my professors did on a Zoom class called the fishbowl technique, which was especially helpful to digest a lot of content when there were about 35 people in the class. What the professor did was she gave us topics that we had to cover and split us into two groups. And on our Canvas system, she laid out who the groups were and what the topics were to cover. We prepared ahead of time, and she directed us toward literature, readings, videos that would help us prepare. And then when we got into class, she would split the class into two, the inner circle and the outer, like the fishbowl. And the inner circle would take over and raise their hands one at a time and be ready to respond to a prompt that she had previously given us so that we could comment on it. Meanwhile, the outer circle would stay muted and we would work in the chat giving commentary along the way. Then at the end of round one, the professor would make comments, we'd have a brief discussion about it, and then we would switch roles. The outer became the inner circle to discuss by raising hands, and the inner became the outer, moving to being muted and on the chat. One of the best benefits about this was that at the end of the class, we could all copy the chat and put it right into whatever our note system was. So we had everyone's perspective and it was captured, and we didn't have to worry about simultaneously taking notes and digesting the information, so we could remain present during the discussion. It was very, very effective.
Excellent example by RJ. Let's go ahead. I'm just going to give a quick nod. There's research out there that talks about asynchronous course with groups. It really does increase student sense of belonging. And also they are more successful when there's some group projects incorporated into the course. Unfortunately, we're not always doing this as much as we should. So I encourage you to think about ways to foster collaboration. I want to get to Mia. Mia, your turn to go ahead and share how your professor engaged you.
All right. So during my time as a community college leadership student at Morgan State University, one particular faculty member, Dr. Krishna Bista, had a unique way of making academic theory come alive by connecting it to real world experiences and encouraging us to share our own. One particular class session focused on leadership challenges in community colleges. Instead of relying solely on the textbook, Dr. Bista asked us to bring in our own personal stories, either from our own work experiences or as educators, or just from our individual experiences in the field. This invitation reflected and shared a creative and powerful learning environment where we were able to analyze, not just analyze the leadership theories, but make them come alive from real world experiences. So my suggestion to any professor wanting to use this strategy is to first create a safe and inclusive workspace or classroom space where students can feel comfortable sharing personal stories and establishing trust and respect in the classroom. And also encouraging connections between theory and practice, because I think sometimes when you get into the textbook, it becomes, regimented, but ask students to reflect on how the course materials apply in their own experiences and professional aspirations. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Love it, Mia. Thank you so much. I know we only have like 2 minutes left. I have 2 quick stories we want to share related to varied teaching approaches. So first, Patricia says, Professor Grimes knows that students will be more engaged if she keeps the course content engaging and relevant for her diverse learners. What I really enjoyed about her class was the variety of teaching approaches she used. She used different methods and media to deliver the course material. And because of this, she stimulated our critical thinking and creativity. I liked how she used many different technology tools to engage us too. She used PowerPoint slides, videos, audio clips, images, charts to present the information clearly and effectively. She also used interactive tools like polls, quizzes, games, simulations to engage us and check our understanding of the course material. Makes a really big difference. The last story, I think we can get in. I think we have about 2 minutes left if I have my time correctly. Let's see if we can listen to her and then we'll wrap up. I may not let you go all the way to the end because we're almost there.
I am Karuna Taneja. I am a doctoral student at Old Dominion University. One of the most effective strategies my professors, Dr. Gregory and Dr. Knuckles, used in my higher ed law course was the case study method combined with guided questioning. Instead of just lecturing, they required us to analyze real court cases, present our findings, and answer thought-provoking questions. And their approach was engaging because instead of passively receiving information, I had to research legal cases, critically analyze them, and present my interpretation every class or every other class. The professors also provided simplified versions of court cases to help bridge the knowledge gap, making complex legal concepts more accessible. Because all the legal jargon was so alien to me, but the simplified versions helped me a lot. Their insightful.
Okay, I'm going to just pause there because I know we are just about out of
Questions also
time,
good.
and I want to make sure we have a minute to just do a quick wrap up. We hope that you got some key takeaways from today. If you want to pop them into the chat, you certainly can. If you want to just reflect on them on your own, that's totally fine too. I want to thank you for being with us today. We're so grateful. I'm very grateful. I would like to give my colleagues, Mia and Damaris, a big shout out for being so wonderful. And I just appreciate all the activity and engagement today. These are some of my other books that may be of use to you. You can find my slides and other information on my website, which is scholarlyteaching.org. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and thank you for coming and spending time with us.